rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, February 19, 2026. Comments or revisions? Page 3. The last paragraph on the bottom says the board question. It should say the driveway that came off River Road.
The driveway that came off the road?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other question I had, I wasn't sure if this came out of the public hearing or not. On Ontaraga, Susan Shapiro, it says a lot of fatal traffic accidents on that stretch of highway. Was that said, was it fatal?
Yes.
I think.
It was?
Yes,
You
it
did
was.
use the word fatal, okay.
She did.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay, that's all I have. Other comments or revisions? If not, can I have a motion then to approve the minutes as modified?
So moved.
Giovanni, second by? Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next item on the agenda is the possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. Project being Gims Garden LLC. A letter dated February 18, 2026 to the planning board regarding Gims Garden. Please let this letter serve as our request for a 90-day extension of final approval for the above referenced project. We are requesting this extension because the conditions of approval require certain site improvements to be completed prior to the plans being signed. Should you have any questions or require anything further, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Peter Zach and Joe Fowl, engineer. Sean, can you elaborate exactly on what he's trying to say?
Yeah, are you talking about the changes?
Yeah, you said, that certain site improvements need to be done before plans can be signed. What specifically are we looking at?
Sure, so in your resolution, there were two requirements that had to be completed prior to site plan signing. One was the removal of a wall encroachment into the side yard setback, and the other was removal of the existing driveways out to Pulaski Highway.
Okay.
Remember, the applicant was gonna take all access off of Wisniewski.
Right,
That was part of the approval, I think, I know they're asking you for a change, but I think it's an amended application, so they would have to come.
that's the one that we want to come forthcoming.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, if you'd like to add to your agenda for next time to have an initial consideration of that, and then, they're also talking about adding a gate, which you read, but I think there's some fire code implications that you want to hear from Frank on.
Okay, now, is 90 days appropriate if they're looking to be on the agenda, or should be shorter than that?
Well, the timing of their extension request is a little unusual. It was initially approved on October 16th, so 6 months would bring you to your April 16th, right? So an additional 6 months from there, you can extend it out to October 16th of 2026. But they're very premature in making that request. It's site plan, so it's months, not.
So right now, they're assessing for 3 months.
Yeah, but it's a site plan, so you should stick with the 6 months rather than the 3 months. I think that they just probably recycled an old waiver that was associated with a subdivision
No one
extension.
does that.
I'm sorry?
I said no one does that.
No. And I think it just, they just missed it.
So 6 months takes us to what date?
October 16th.
Comments from the board? Not, can I have a motion then to approve the request and further extend it to October 16, 2026 for a 6-month extension?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by Will, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next item on the agenda is MC3 Ventures LLC, Hugh McKenzie, formerly known as 2639, 17M Building 920 Associates LLC, 12-1-54, an application for amended site plan approval for an automobile retail and service business on .65 acres along New York State Route 17M in an HC zone with an AQ6 overlay. We're here for, we will be continuing our public hearing, but first, is there anyone here, first off,
Yes,
for the public hearing besides the applicant?
yes.
No, I'll be here.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
You're the consultant.
They're the owner, I'm the consultant.
Right, but anyone else besides that? Just so I have a sense of where we are. Okay. Well, it's all yours. You just want to introduce yourself?
My name is Todd Marizio, I'm from Fusco Engineering. Representing our client on this, the automobile sales and repair garage. Located at the property. We looked at the Lincoln Tully, review comments, and we just wanted to clarify a couple things with the comments. We're gonna address all the comments, but we'd like to clarify things where, this property's now in front of the zoning board. So we wanna make sure that we're getting all our variances, our requests for variances accurately for the zoning board.
Okay.
So the first one is there's a requirement 35-foot setback. There's an increase if you're gonna have parking in front. There's an increase to a 30, so it's basically a 65-foot setback. We have adjoining properties to the west and east that are parking cars within that 35-foot, in parking areas that are within that 35 setback. And when you do the constraints of the property, we would like to know if that zoning or that particular law is applicable for our establishment.
Based on your neighbor's properties? Is that why you're asking?
Based on our neighbors, adjacent neighbor, yes, adjacent neighbor, and relative to most of the properties along that roadway, which are parking up front. They're not maintaining a 65-foot road, off the 65-foot setback for parking.
What was your other issue? We'll address them together.
The other issue was the board, if the plantings up front, if we had to do screening, because it's a sales, and, sales, we don't want to screen potential for people to visually see the cars for sale. So we're proposing to try to put that screening over that hedgerow and separate the dwelling unit on the west side of the property, separate that dwelling unit and put a good screening there to keep that from the business in the dwelling unit. So we propose to bring that landscaping to the side yard setback. And that's on the western side.
Great. Sean, you want to comment on that?
Sure, so the determination as to whether it requires a variance or not is the building inspector's determination. If you'd like my opinion, I can give you it.
Of course.
Oh.
I don't think the applicant wants the opinion. They're required to get variance, right? That's not the standard, right? The standard is, well, my neighbor does it.
Well, that's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, so perhaps those uses were approved before that was required, perhaps they're legally pre-existing non-conforming conditions. They're not before you right now, this application's before you right now. They're proposing parking in the front yard in an HC zoning district, they're allowed to have one row. But if they do that, they have to increase the 35-foot setback to 65 feet, right? When they do that, I think that, and if they want the plan to stay as it is, I think that creates two other potential variances. One is now they have parking in the the front yard setback, and they're proposing 2 rows of parking. One row is the 7 standard stalls, and the other second row is the 1 accessory parking space.
And as far as the other concern with the landscape?
Yeah, so I was unsure based on the plan that was submitted whether the applicant was proposing to have cars displayed in the front. That was actually one of my comments further into my report. There is provisions that tie together for outdoor storage and for landscaping, and if it's okay with the board, as you review the application further, I'd just like to consult the notes, and we can come back to that issue if that's all right.
There's no landscaping shown on the plan that I see.
No, there's no landscaping yet, we just received this, so there's no landscaping. But I'd like to add that the required setback of 35 feet isn't allowed to have parking in the required setback. I don't know if the additional 30 feet now becomes the required setback.
Yes.
And if it does, I think if we move the building up to constrain to the setback, if we bring the building right up to the 35-foot mark, I don't think that's gonna be unsightly. I think if we brought where the building is located towards the rear of the property, it's about 30 feet away, and the cars are in front, I think that's gonna look a lot more presentable.
Well, excellent arguments for the zoning board.
What other issues did you have with this, Sean?
Just to refresh the board's memory, this initially came in as a change of use. You had approved a contractor storage for this site that never got built. The property changed hands. The application was submitted, and originally, like I said, it was a change of use. It was gonna be same exact site plan. You opened a public hearing in October, and subsequently, after you adjourned the public hearing, the applicant indicated they may want to make some amended changes. You had requested plans, so that's how we're here tonight. We already discussed the potential variances associated with parking in the front yard. They have introduced a lot line adjustment to remedy an encroaching from the adjoining lot, which they also own. So when they moved that lot line, they reduced this lot where.
Side yard setback.
Well, before that, even get into that, they reduced this lot from 0.65 acres, which they already received the variance for, to 0.62. So they're increasing the non-conformance, so they're before the ZBA for that. They're also.
They reduced that as well as their frontage.
Yes, they also are increasing the frontage. I don't know, are you currently before the ZBA for the frontage as well?
Yes.
Okay. That's
For
what
3 feet, and we decreased the non-conformity on the adjacent parcel. I'm not sure if that has to go to the zoning board for decreasing non-conformity.
Usually not. So I don't anticipate any variances to come from that adjoining lot that they're improving, but there are.
Multiple on this one.
Correct, that's right. I also asked them to look into whether there's any change in the driveway setback. You have a 10-foot setback requirement. They received a variance, I think, to go down to 2.9 feet on the curvature of the driveway. I don't know if they modified that. It's too small a dimension to scale and determine. And then the last is, your code actually has two provisions in it that are very similar. One is in the design standards that requires parking lots to be behind buildings, and then there's a similar standard in the parking requirements. So I think if they're going for the variance on one, they also need the variance on the other.
By having the driveway that close to the side yard, to the adjoiner, does that create an issue as far as drainage running off the parking lot onto the neighbor's property?
My recollection from the original one, the original application was curved. I had thought that this was curved as well. It is.
They're showing, it looks like a curve, it's showing, yeah. Okay.
And then just to round out the rest of my comments, architectural, you know the code has some architectural requirements, 8-on-12 roof slopes. The previous applicant provided architectural elevations. I don't know if this applicant is prepared to do that this time. If they cannot demonstrate that they comply, I would recommend that you have that as a condition. So Frank confirms compliance before issuing a building permit. There was a discussion about number of employees, right? They have septic design on the property, they've done some well testing. The original application that did the well testing said they have 4 employees. So I think this applicant is committed to having 4 employees. And then the last item I have is the seeker. If they're going back between the boards, I think you at this point can determine this now with the revised plan as a type 2 seeker action if you'd like.
Has anything been done yet as far as investigating the septic tank and pump station as far as the loading capacity and?
Oh, we're designing the H20 loading.
Is the-
That's been changed, yes. Yeah, so the pump chamber and the septic tank will be
Both.
designed to handle the load in the driveway.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board?
Nothing. The applicant does have renderings of the proposed building. We're understanding that the pitch is, around 4 pitch, the required 8 pitch. So we're looking to revise the drawings to show the required pitch.
So you will comply
We
with?
will, yes. I did the other one and, we brought it to 8 pitch. But still buildings typically, they don't like to, be on an 8 pitch, they want to be on a 4 pitch. It's just, the roof line becomes more than the building and it looks unsightly, but, I think think the floor pitch looks nicer, but, yeah, we'll comply with the roof pitch.
A pitch with a nice dormer on it perhaps, or
Could be a nice dormer, yes. Yes.
just break it up,
It's a lot of roof, yeah.
you know, as far as the public hearing. We open it and hold it, we open it and close it.
I would open it, but leave it open.
Don't keep it
Yeah,
open.
keep it open, and then they go to zoning, and we'll see what happens, and then come back, but leave it open.
So, could I have a motion then to continue the public hearing on this application?
So move.
Will, second, by Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Could I have a motion then to hold the public hearing open? There's nobody here that wishes to speak. Could I have a motion to hold the public hearing open till a date
I don't know, Mr. Chairman.
undetermined?
Well, the applicant, look,
Do we have a date we can push it out?
from all practical purposes, I think the applicant, they received comment, you have no further comment, there is no public comment tonight, so I think they understand some of the requirements of the application.
Each one has.
They're before the ZBA, I presume they're gonna wanna finish with the ZBA before they come back to this board, so I think you need to know where they are in the ZBA process.
Yeah, what I would do too, I would just make a motion to continue the public hearing to, you know, to not a date certain, to a future date, and then when we're ready, they'll come back, but they're gonna have to notice again at that point, because you don't have a date certain, so we would have to do notice for the new continued public hearing. If you wanna do that, I mean, my only thing as to why you wanna leave it open is because if they go to ZBA,
And they get denied?
and it gets denied or it changes, they had to come back here, and now you have a closed public hearing when you have a revised plan, so that's why you can continue it, but if you're gonna continue it to a date certain, what I would do, so they don't have to renotice, you could push it out maybe to, I mean, they're at the zoning board right now, when they schedule,
April 7th is the ZBA meeting.
public hearing? So if you wanna push the public hearing with April, yeah, first meeting in May, should be safe.
Which would be what the?
Yeah, date certain. Because otherwise, they would have to renotice.
Right,
Yeah,
to
so-
avoid that.
To avoid that, to help them out, just give them a date in May.
That's May 7th,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Okay.
The client would like to add something.
Just to add that in the front, the parking there is gonna be for display of the cars for sale.
So you're gonna need an interpretation, I think, from the building inspector, whether that's quote-unquote parking, or whether that's something else, you know, whether that's storage, let's say. So he's got to make that determination, and then, once you commit to that, you can't uncommit to that. So if he says that, yes, you can have storage, it's not parking, you don't need these variances, then you can't park cars there.
Okay.
So you're gonna need to email me tomorrow or Monday. with
Let's
some
get them review that.
information.
And if he doesn't agree, then we would bring that to the zoning board.
Yeah, if you get an unfavorable determination from the building inspector, you can seek a variance.
Interpretation.
The building inspector, frankly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, just send it, he has my email.
One of the apparatus, I have a question about the apparatus. We were building.
I think something like that. They don't do it yet.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question about the apparatus truck. Is there a need for the apparatus truck to enter the site, being 150 feet from the road? Typically, they don't have to access or go around the building if it's the proximity to the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. How about garbage trucks?
I'll show a typical 30-foot box truck or, you know, Amazon delivery trucks, those kind of trucks. But an apparatus truck to get around the site is gonna be, I don't think it's, even being close to that structure 5 feet away, it's not gonna be able to do anything that close. They're not gonna wanna get that close, but.
That's a good point, yeah.
Okay.
You know, within the club zone. Could I have a motion to hold the public hearing open until May 7th, 2026, at which time we'll continue?
So moved.
Chair? Chairness?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? May 7th, see you again.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good luck.
And Eric, if you want, I mean, it's a type 2 action, again, technically you don't need a motion to declare that, but if you want, I know you board of practice.
We
do that.
typically do.
Yeah, so you can do a motion for type 2.
Okay, could I have said motion?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by? Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thanks, Lee. Next item on the agenda, T-Mobile Northeast LLC, 638 Craigville Road, 4-1-12. We have an application for amended site plan for a minor wireless communications facility on 8.2 plus or minus acres along Craigville Road, County Route 66. In an RU zone with an AQ3 overlay and scenic road corridor overlays. We're here this evening to consider a draft negative resolution, declaration, and possible draft resolution. Welcome.
Hi, nice to see you all again. As a reminder, my name is Doug Ward, I'm a partner in the law firm of Snyder. Here tonight on behalf of T-Mobile in connection with their efforts to locate a wireless telecommunications facility on an existing tower. That's intentional. The code contemplates that existing structures are to be used, the idea being that helps avoid the proliferation of unnecessary tall structures throughout the town. And I think at the last meeting, we had received some comments that needed responding to, and we've responded to those. And if the board and staff find those responses satisfactory, we respectfully request that the board consider a negative declaration and approval resolution this evening.
Thank you. Sean?
It's all legal, Mr. Chairman.
All legal.
It's all legal.
Lino, the neg deck.
So the neg deck, you've been provided with the draft of negative declaration. Pretty straightforward, again, it's a co-location, so you have the neg deck, to adopt first, assuming you're satisfied with it. And then also, there's a draft resolution for conditional approval for the co-location. You'll notice, we in the procedural history, we noted that a public hearing was held in 2017 on March 5th, which is tonight. We also included our, the usual standard general conditions. So again, you have that. If there's any changes or comments to the resolution, it's all before you. But again, pretty straightforward as a co-location.
Thank you. Comments on the neg deck from the board? Nothing.
No, sir.
Motion at this end? Not, can I have a motion to approve the negative declaration as prepared? Will, second by? Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Next, we have a draft of a resolution of conditional approval, minor amended site plan for T-Mobile Northeast LLC. Comments or revisions?
Page 5,
Page 5.
number 4,
Hold on. Yep.
on the last line, it says match D, existing equipment, space between match
Yep,
and D.
thank you.
And page 5, general conditions. Federal is small f, state is large S. Consistent use of capitalization.
Good catch.
You guys use AI to catch these things? Like, I can't find it.
Old school way.
What they do is they cut, paste, and put in Copilot.
Catch those little things.
It's amazing.
In the first bolded paragraph.
Yep.
There's probably an extra in accordance with town code 97.
That's redundant.
Yeah. One of the in accordance with town code 97 is that right.
Sure.
You're good.
While we're at it, on page 2, the listing of drawings, it says last revised 12/1/25. The plan set we have was last revised 12/4/25. It's like issued for finals on the plan set.
And which one are you talking to? The title sheet, General, which one?
All the sheets,
All the sheets were,
from T1 right through
Right.
E3. Should all say,
Compound plan says 1231.
Yeah, and one says 12.
yeah, 1231 and the others were.
C1?
Yeah, what's the title sheet say?
Well, the title sheet T1 has 12/4/25 as the last.
Right, so put that for, and GN-1,
mistake, that's, that prior should say 12:01, but that's wrong anyway. They all should say 12:04.
Even the compound plan?
Yeah, I'm sure that 3 was a typo.
Okay.
That probably was meant to be a 0 when it was prepared,
Got it, so.
but they all should become 12:04.
Okay.
And then the other item was on specific condition number 1. The date, I believe should say January 9th, 2026, not January 8th, for the town engineer's notes.
I have January 8th.
Good.
But I may
Uh-huh.
have printed it today early, so that may be where that typo comes from. Yours is the 9th,
The one I have here just says January 9th, 2026.
That's probably the day I made the PDF, so that's accurate.
Okay.
You couldn't give me that, right?
Sorry.
Other comments or revisions?
I do these things on purpose, actually.
You're just testing us. I know.
Oh, yeah.
He's batting 1,000 though.
Was that
You're batting 1,000, you're hitting him out of the park.
Yeah,
2 for 2?
good.
Other comments or revisions? Not, then could I have a motion to approve the resolution of conditional approval, minor amended site plan for T-Mobile Northeast LLC, the wireless telecommunications facility co-location as modified this evening?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by?
I'll second.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Thank you for all your hard work on this, and have a great night.
You as well.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Wood subdivision, 3-1-39. We have an application for a small-scale subdivision on 27.2 plus or minus acres along Sarah Wells Trail, County Route 8, and Victoria Terrace in the village of Goshen. RU zone with an AQ3, AQ6, and scenic road corridor overlays. We're here tonight to consider the expanded Part 3 EAF.
So just to get started,
For the record, introduce yourself.
my name is Juan Jesus, I'm with MGS Engineering, and I'm representing our clients, our applicants, James and Wendy Wood. I know since our last planning board meeting, we did submit the draft easement for review by the planning board. So we did want to see if there was any comments on that at this time.
Sean, did you have any, or Lino, comments on the easement? Anything from the board, issues or concerns with the easement that was prepared?
So, Mr. Chairman, one thing, I just want to caution the applicant, right? So as they're developing the plan, they're gonna be before you. They may be before the ZBA, they're likely gonna be before the town ZBA, they may be before the village ZBA. So the plan may change, so the easement may change. So tonight, indicating that you don't have any comments doesn't mean that you won't have any comments.
In the future?
Yeah, these as it's presented is okay, but again, it may change, but in terms of the form.
Before it actually would be filed?
Yeah.
Okay. I know the last time we were here, we had, submitted plans to the building department, which were submitted to the fire department for review. As far as, the last time, I believe the fire chief was out on a medical leave. So I know it's been an additional month, so I wanted to ask if any comments have been received from the fire department. I guess
Not that I'm aware of.
nothing. Okay. And then, of course, the Part 3 EAF, we prepared that, based on the Part 2 EAF and submitted that to the planning board. We've also received the comments from, the planning board engineer, for revisions to that Part 3 EAF. I guess first, did the board have any comments on the Part 3 that we submitted initially?
Well, the very first one was on the cover. It says lead agency town of Monroe.
I got that.
Okay. We took offense to that.
They had the right address, though.
They had the right address, and planning board is the right board.
Yeah, I apologize, but that will be corrected.
This is a question for you, Sean.
Yes.
On impact on land. as far as disturbed areas that are left exposed for more than 14 days. Is that customary, 14 days, not shorter than that?
I believe the new general permit requires 14 days unless you have more than 5 acres of disturbance, which I don't think the applicant's
So
looking at.
14 would be
I
appropriate.
believe it is, yeah.
Other comments from the board?
No.
Can you take this, NGO?
No, sir.
No more comments from Marty. So. Lino, do you have anything to add to this?
Nope.
Kathleen, do you have anything?
No.
So, what do we do?
Well, according to my notes, I did not have you assuming lead agency status, so I'm gonna ask you to do that this evening.
Okay. Could I have said motion to have this board assume itself as lead agency?
So move.
Will, second by?
I'll second it.
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay.
All right, and I think, you know, the applicant has received comments, they received my comments. If the board is comfortable with those comments, and I think the next step is for the applicant to go back, revise and resubmit the expanded part 3, and then to come back before you to see if, you know, at that point you'd be ready to authorize an egg deck.
We're good?
Okay, just on, I know I had asked this last time, but just on that last point of, consistency with community plans and the need for variance. Just the statement that, the plan to be revised to evaluate the need for variance under town law, 280 and village law. And that's just that the applicant is willing to go before the ZBA of either the town or the village. Is that what that was hinting at?
It wasn't hitting as anything. I think the expanded part 3 needs a discussion on the 288 variance and the 736 variance. What came in didn't even acknowledge that those were possibilities, so I'm pretty sure that those were required.
Okay, would it be appropriate at this time to submit another plan to show an option where we get rid of the easement and just make that property line for the variance to go away?
I don't know what you're describing, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm trying to.
What you can do and what is appropriate if you want to consider an alternate plan as part of your expanded part 3, and then analyze any impacts from that alternate plan, you can definitely do that.
Okay.
But I don't know if what you're describing is gonna have any other potential impacts.
What exactly were you, if you could show us on the map, what are you thinking that,
Yeah, I know we have this small easement area right here that goes to the private road. This is the private road, right away right here.
right,
So I know the variance would be for not having, any frontage on the private road. So if we got rid of this easement and just made this part of lot 2, then we would have that frontage requirement and be able to,
so you just chiseled out that corner of lot 3, you're
Yeah.
saying?
to this private road. So it would actually hit the right of way instead of needing an access easement.
So you wouldn't be passing through lot 3 to get to lot,
Yes, that's correct.
the bulk requirements would permit that based on the acreage of the lots?
I don't know, I'd have to look at it, Mr. Chairman, it's the first time it's been suggested. I don't know if that would eliminate the need for the 288 variance. I think the village variance would still be required just based on, discussions with the village attorney.
Okay.
Right, what he's saying is, if you move it over just so the board can see it, what he's saying is that that gravel drive that you have is not an improved village street, out to Victoria. So he's saying that your lots don't have any access on Village Street.
Oh, we are proposing this to be paved. Is that,
That doesn't meet the standard of
Yeah, it's
733. Yeah.
what, I'm sorry, what was the,
7?
no, what was
736.
his statement that it didn't meet the,
He felt that you didn't qualify as having access off of an improved Village Street.
okay.
And maybe, you know, further discussion with him would, you know, change his mind, but, the last comment he gave to me was he thinks that this needs a variance from the village ZBA. And I did give you copies of those laws with my comments, right? You got those?
Yes.
Okay.
And you had that discussion with the planning board attorney for the village?
The planning board attorney is the village attorney, it's the same person, David Donovan.
Oh, okay.
Sure. For the village. So basically, he's saying that that private road that's serving all three,
Well, two lots.
Just two, third one
Because the third one comes off of Sarah Wells, that's already got its
oh,
own
that's right,
access.
yeah, sorry. But that private road access to those two houses would not be considered
Improve
having
Village
at,
Street.
having access from the improved village road being
That's why
Victoria
you
Terrace?
do ADA.
Okay. Is that because the driveways don't enter Victoria proper? And they just club off the private road?
Yeah, I think if they had direct access, you know, if you had several lots, like flag lots, if you will, and they all had, I think that would probably be okay, but I don't wanna speak for the village.
Yeah, right, but that access to a village street, that's the issue, right, that it doesn't.
Could that private road just be a shared driveway?
We don't want to share
Not
driveway.
under your code, no.
No.
Under your code, it's either an improved public road or a private road.
Interesting dilemma.
Easier to make it a public road, right, cause they don't wanna build it.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense to town spec and then.
Yeah, because building it in the spec is a lot of money, who knows?
Yeah, and you're gonna, if you build it to the spec, the 20 foot wide, you're gonna encroach more because we're going through an Army Corps of Engineer wetland.
Oh.
They allow up to 1/10 of an acre. We're already at that 1/10 that we got, you know, the authorization for, so we'd be impacting that wetland more. It'd be about a 35% increase in the disturbance to that wetland. And we'd be increasing the overall impervious to the site of about 3,000 square feet. So the reduction really does help to preserve, you know, that protected area more, as well as any downstream water source, water body.
That's all we could do right now.
I appreciate you guys, thank you.
Have a good night.
Pretty neat variance.
Is it?
Sounds like he needs a variance.
At least.
Yeah, he didn't.
Next item on the agenda is Goshen Hospitality LLC, 10-1-56.2 and 56.4. We have an application for a site plan and special permit for a hotel restaurant complex on 63.3 plus or minus acres along Chee-Chunk and 6.5 Station Road in the CO district. AQ6, Scenic Road, floodplain ponding, and street corridor and reservoir overlay districts. And we're here this evening with revised plans. Welcome, Jane.
Hi there, how are you? Jane Samuelson, with Engineering and Surveying Properties, here, representing the applicants.
It's on.
What's on? Oh, thank you.
Your map.
So since last time we saw you, we have addressed all of, well, most of the comments that Sean had regarding the site plan. And then we also provided you with some, an architectural drawing showing how the three-story buildings would comply with the 35-foot high height limit. So these are really sort of meant to be generic drawings for all three hotels. So we're showing that in order to meet the 35-foot average height, the ground floor has to be 1.5 feet below the average grade. And so, we then provided individual, sheets for each one of the hotels to show how each one of those hotels would meet that.
So the grading in front of the access into the hotels then has changed to allow for that lower depression?
Was the, let me just pull them up, it's probably easier to show. Sorry, wrong one. So what we did is we took sections all the way around the building and calculated what the grade was, because the grade changes as you go along the building, right?
Right,
So,
but if that's to figure out your average height around the perimeter.
Right, right.
But it's just as far as the, actual grading plan, did it change,
oh,
you know, from the parking into the access into the canopies?
no.
That didn't change?
Not, I mean, slightly, but not tremendously, not significantly, that changed the plan,
Okay.
right? So I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. Yes, so I don't have an overall grading plan, but the buildings are all in the same spots. Oops. I hope that was just what my computer died and now.
Very good.
There you go.
Upgrade.
But I have nothing on my computer, that's the problem.
Battery go?
All right, well, hopefully we don't need that again. So anyway, I'm in receipt of, the latest comment, review letter. So that was the first thing I wanted to go over with you, the architectural drawing was meant to be a generic, to show what it, what needed to be, and then the other drawings were to show how each building complied. The next thing I wanted to ask about was, well, there's two items, where we had gone before the ZBA, back in 2022, I wanna say, for the location of the landscaped islands within each of the parking areas, along with the parking that is on the Cheecham side of building, or hotels 1 and 2. And, for the landscaping, the ZBA had determined that it met the code. And then for the parking, they determined that no, no interpretation was needed, or, I'm sorry, what did they say? Yeah, an area variance was not needed, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna pass out, a drawing that shows both the, shows the drawing that was submitted with the ZBA application on the left-hand side and the current plan on the right-hand side. So that you can see how the current plan is basically the same as the plan that was submitted to the ZBA. And so, rather than waste the ZBA's time by going back to them again, I'm asking the planning board if they would, agree that the plan meets what the ZBA had seen before, and that there would be no, would it be necessary to go back?
But
So, if I can just give a little
Yeah,
bit.
no comment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so, the applicant went before the ZBA, 100%. They've given us copies of the minutes,
Yep.
right? And Jeanine essentially summarized what that said, and I believe you just got a copy of it, it's highlighted in orange. So for example, it says, ZBA moved to accept the interpretation of the proposed landscaping within the parking lot as it complies with section the digital reference. I don't know what that means. And by that, I mean, I can't tell this board that what the ZBA made a decision on is the same plan that you're seeing. Now,
Which is- I'm sorry, go ahead.
we've got another plan this evening, and maybe we can confirm that, but at the time this was submitted, I mean, you don't have the ZBA decision. This doesn't even tell you what plan they based the decision off of, so my suggestion was really to help the applicant, so not to cause a problem in the future, to go back to ZBA, but if they don't want to do that, then they don't have to.
I just don't see the need when we are showing, a plan that is substantially the same as what was already shown to the ZBA as far as the location and the size of the landscaping islands and also the location of the parking.
Yeah, I'm not arguing, yeah, I just,
Yeah.
you know, normally, ZBA issues a decision, and the decision says, this is what we reviewed, this is what we determined.
Oh, so, okay, so you're saying you need a copy of that?
Until receiving this just now, I didn't have anything to compare it to. I don't even know what the ZBA considered at their,
Yeah, we need
April
to,
19th.
yeah, we need to see, cause
Okay.
you're asking this board to basically give their stamp of approval on something that the ZBA did, but we don't know what that is, and you're also asking a question almost like what the ZBA would have to answer if you have to go back there on this, whether it's substantial or not. It's not for really this board to make that call, it's the zoning board determination, but it all starts with, we kinda need to see and have some reference as to what this is referring to. You know, cause again, that's the first time I'm seeing this, I don't know what this means either.
Okay, so, I mean, I can supply all the information that was provided to the ZBA, you know, the ZBA application, and I'm sure everything that was, submitted is hopefully in the ZBA files.
you know, I had asked for this last time, and Jane provided copies of
Okay.
the minutes.
All right,
Yeah.
so if there's a decision, okay, because that was all that we were ever given.
I understand
Yeah.
that. Right.
So that's all I have as well.
No, I understand, and I understand this is not a problem that we created, but, you know, if you're,
Okay, I appreciate that,
You know, if
yeah,
this
because if
board-
we can avoid, I mean, I just feel like it's an
You might be able to, again, if there's a decision, because usually the zoning board has a decision that's filed with it after you get your meeting, or minutes, sometimes boards don't do minutes, they don't do decisions, they do the decision within the minutes, but
Okay.
usually I see decisions here, so let's see if there's a decision that exists first, let's see what it says, because that may give us more clarity in terms of what actually was approved and on what plan and what sheet.
I mean,
Cross-reference
so
that.
I'm wondering if there wasn't a decision, because for the one item, they decided that no decision was needed.
Right.
For the second one, I don't have a copy anymore, I gave them all away.
Yeah, the second one looks like, according to their minutes, they made a finding.
They said that the interpretation was that the parking lot complied. So, maybe that's why there wasn't a decision, because they never.
Right, but what
they
do they have in front of them to say, I mean, so what was the sheet, you're saying this is it, right? This is what they have?
Yeah, I mean, that was
But-
you know, a clip of it, so that you could easily see the comparison of the two, but yeah, I mean, I can supply.
Yeah, I think we need to see the full
Yeah.
picture, because that's, yeah, because it's unfair for this board, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's unfair for them to make that call right now without having the universal documents that this is referring to.
Okay, so I will provide,
And we'll look to see if there's an actual decision, we'll check into that and
Okay.
see what's on file, but that's the next step.
Lino, just a question.
Yeah.
For my own edification, when the planning board, when the ZBA makes any type of finding or decision that affects an application that's in front of us, is it normal that they would communicate that to us directly in some kind of memorandum, or how does that work?
So, I can't speak for what you all do here, because I haven't been that long, but I will tell you in other places, for example, what happens is, you know, a zoning decision, if we send an application to zoning, right, and they're at the hearing, let's say the variances get granted, there are minutes that reflect that, but that decision gets memorialized in a written determination and gets filed
Right.
with the clerk,
I would
because
think-
that sets the time by which you challenge it from an Article 78 standpoint, but the planning board gets a copy of that at some point to say, well, the applicant provides, when they have to come back to planning saying, hey, we got our variance. For example, one jurisdiction, we don't make you go back to planning until we get that decision filed, right? Because that's your decision. That tells you all, hey, these variances were granted. It's a done deal.
Right.
So, and there are times I've been guilty of it where I'm on the developer side where I just wanna go back to planning. I know they voted to grant my variances, but I don't have a decision yet. The planning board chair's like, I need
Right, yeah,
a
that's-
resolution. I need to see a decision.
I think that's where my confusion is,
Yep.
because, you know, if they, let's just say if they grant a variance, it's memorialized in some kind of.
It's in the decision,
document. Right.
but the problem
And
was
then
there was no
and it's
variance
communicated
granted,
to us.
that there was no variance. needed, or.
Yeah, but that is a decision though, right?
Yeah,
You apply-
that's a determination.
Okay.
It's a
So
determination.
it's still a
That's-
determination.
It's still a determination that can be challenged, and it can be, it still has to get filed somewhere, it has to get filed with the clerk, so that way, and no decision, if you will, on a variance request saying that you don't need a variance, or the interpretation was correct, it's still a decision.
If you decide
Right.
not to decide, you still have made a choice.
Correct.
Right.
You're taking no actions.
Good way to put it.
Mr. Chairman. That's a storm
Question. Go right ahead.
Referring to the diagrams that the site plan you handed out, the April 2022, is that the site plan that the ZBA approved that you're talking about? Okay, so what I'm seeing on the 2026 site plan is a wastewater treatment facility that doesn't show on the 2022. That seems to be a significant change.
It's there, the arrows there pointing to the box.
There's just
Well,
not
it's-
identified.
It's in a different location.
Yeah,
and
they rotated the location.
We moved it out of the wetland
Yeah.
buffer.
So my point would be, can you do that without going back to the zoning board?
Yes, because the zoning board, decision was not needed for that, the location of that. We've specifically went to the ZBA for the location of the landscape islands within the parking areas, as well as the location of parking on the Cheechunk side of the buildings. In front of Hotel 1 and Hotel 2.
I mean, a
And,
number.
I'm sorry, the third thing that we actually went for was a height variance for the 4-story, which was never voted on by the ZBA, because we never went back, after this board made their findings, secret findings statement determination, which negated us being able to even get a 4-story.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead, please.
I got a question. Are these two drawings the same scale?
Yes,
Okay, because if they are, the drawing on the right looks like the islands are bigger.
they are bigger.
Okay, so. So it's changed, so the islands.
So it's changed, yeah, we've actually made the islands bigger than what they previously were, which is what the ZBA agreed was okay.
It's all
So
different.
we're actually providing more islands than what they
Yeah, there's more
agreed
on the
to.
plan now than there were
Or
before.
agreed was okay.
Well, over here, on this drawing, on the hotel number 3, you have 2 islands there with some parking. And on the new drawing, Hotel 3, those parking spaces have been removed and there's less island there. There's no, the island on the right is smaller. There's a difference.
There, yes, it's not,
And you remove some islands around the restaurant.
yeah, and Sean did note that we need to add an island back in around the restaurant.
You remove, yeah. So it's different, is my point, so. And you also remove two islands on the hotel number 2 on the corners. But you made it bigger because you took away the parking lot, is that it?
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, so there was parking that went all the way down, so, yeah, so that'll all be landscape island now.
I could actually tell you the 2 areas that I actually questioned the board on. So, working off hotel number 2 in the first figure, on the north side, you can see a very large island coming out and extending. I presume that will be planted. On the 2026 submission, that island goes away, more or less. It's not really an island, it looks just like a curve and a sidewalk. The other area is you're supposed to have islands every 120 feet, right? And I checked the 2026 drawing, I think it has it everywhere except one spot. If you look at restaurant number 1, you see the kind of square parking lot to the south of it. To the southeast, there's like a curve. And in 2022, there's no parking on that curve. Now, parking's added in. The distance around that curve is greater than 120 feet.
Right.
So my question is whether they need an island in there.
We probably do, yes.
So this is what generated me to say, you should go back and check with the ZBA, but the applicant doesn't wanna do that.
Well, I mean, if we can show that we meet the code, by showing the distances and the square footage of each island.
But isn't that a question for them?
But it's really, but the building inspector could look at this too, right? So if the building, if you see this plan and say, look, does this comply, right? Then he'll tell you right off the bat whether you need the variance or not. So I think it would be good for you just to maybe have that meeting with Frank and say, look, this is what we have, right? And then we'll look to see what's in our records in terms of the decision.
Okay.
But I think confirming this 2026 submission with the building department, the building inspector, start there.
All right, very good. We can do that.
Sean, with respect to height calculation, I mean, the geometry is so complex, like, are you, and obviously this process isn't finished, but are you comfortable with the calculation as they?
Yeah, I thought it was actually an excellent job of calculation, and I apologize if I didn't say that in my report, but I was confused because obviously the hotels are different shapes and have different profiles, and they only submitted the one. So I didn't know if that was just an oversight, and they didn't, but now you've heard tonight that that's just a generic to make a determination of how they're gonna comply.
Great.
Sean, if I could just get a little clarification on the max average roof height.
I try.
So it's halfway up the roof, so up to half the roof deck.
That almost seems
That's
counterintuitive, that the max average roof height is not at the top of the roof, it's halfway up the roof.
That's the building
Yeah.
code.
Yeah.
So the code definition, Marty, is the vertical distance measured from the average elevation, which is what the applicant determined around the perimeter, of the proposed finished grade adjoining the building to the average height of the highest roof surface. Right, so if you have an 8-on-12 slope, it would be halfway down the slope, typically, right? And then that then goes on to say that it has to be a maximum of 35 feet.
Yeah, doesn't go to the ridge.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you would think it's a ridge, yeah.
Stop making good sense, Marty.
Your correspondence, this is just a trivial thing. The January 20th correspondence, you CC'd Kelly Naughton.
Whoops.
I don't need to say
Yeah,
it further.
You know, she misses us.
I don't bring that up.
Sorry, Lena.
It's okay.
Did she respond? That's all I wanna know.
She did not. She doesn't miss us.
If I could also get some clarification on the parking in front of hotels 1 and 2. Did the ZBA make a determination that a variance wasn't needed, or did they grant the variance?
They did not grant a variance, they needed determination that one was not needed.
And Sean, how is one not needed if the parking's in front of the building?
I have no idea.
Because the way the code is written, I wish I had it in front of me right now, but I don't.
I think the code specifies.
I think this may have been an interpretation.
It is interpretation, it's not a variance, so if I'm reading this, because it says interpretation, so apparently someone had an issue with the interpretation, that's why they took this up to the ZBA, and they said that they accepted the interpretation of the landscaping, so, again, but I don't know what that initial interpretation was in order to make that, so I don't know what that interpretation was.
Yeah.
So if I can, I can tell you the process that we went through with them, so, we showed that the parking would not be visible from Chichunk due to the elevation differential as well as the proposed landscaping that we were gonna put in. So we gave them cross sections through all of the, you know, through a bunch of different spots through the parking areas, and we did a visual rendering showing what it would look like, and they agreed that the parking would not be visible, and so therefore it did not need an interpretation.
Right, okay, that's what I wanna ask you, so usually when you say again, I'm reading from this decision, interpretations, you're saying that.
Or, I'm sorry, it didn't need a variance because they.
Right, but I'm saying the word interpretation is used in the minutes, so did the building inspector make an interpretation that you disagree with, or is the ZBA agreeing with your interpretation, the applicant's interpretation of what it thinks is the correct landscaping?
They agreed with us that what we were showing was correct.
So, did the building inspectors make an interpretation that was different than what you said, the ZBA agreed with you? 'Cause that's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Okay, I don't think the building inspector was involved, I think we went to the ZBA based on a comment from, Sean, that an interpretation was needed.
If the interpretation has to come from the
Building inspector, right, he's the only one who can make an interpretation call. That's why, the way this is written, I'm just curious, there's a story I'm missing here. Someone made an interpretation, and if they're saying that they accept the interpretation, interpretation by whom? Was it the building inspector, or was it, so your fault, Sean?
I mean,
I can't,
I'm not
I can't.
trying to throw you under the bus, Sean. But I mean, I don't
That's not a
remember
good
the
idea.
building inspector ever making,
Right, I'm just saying, again, when I do this stuff, interpretation always means from the building inspector, right? So if the applicant is saying that it was your rationale that they agreed with, and the ZBA wrote this to say, well, we agree with your interpretation, I just have to get to the bottom of whose interpretation was it? Was it the building inspectors, and then they disagree with him, and they agree with you, or was there no interpretation, maybe it's just,
I think there was no interpretation. There was
Suggestion.
confusion about how it should be interpreted, and that's why we were sent.
because when it says move to accept the interpretation of the landscaping, but someone had to give an interpretation, I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the interpretation from our end of what we believe the code meant. So that's what we took to the ZBA to review with them, and they agreed with our interpretation.
So I guess what we need to see is, I wanna see that rationale, what your rationale was, that they accepted as the correct interpretation of landscaping, that's what we need to see.
Right, I'll provide everything that we provided them.
Okay.
Question to Sean.
Yes.
Do you know the section of the code that restricts the parking in the front yard?
Yes.
What section is that?
There's two sections, actually. It's 9714D and 9748 something else. And in response to Marty's question, I'm gonna read the one in 9714. Buildings shall be placed in front of their parking lots to screen the parking lot from the road. The requirement shall not apply if the entire site is screened from the road by natural vegetation and or natural topography. So, but the applicant just said that the landscaping they proposed and the grading they proposed.
It's not natural.
So I think the board, I hope the applicant understands what generated this comment on my, in my report. It's very unclear to me what was approved, under what provisions of the code, and, you know. And I can't tell this board that, you know, that the applicant meets what the ZBA determined.
All right, well, we have a path forward. We'll go to the
Get us,
inspector.
yeah, we'll look
But I'll
at this
provide
decision.
everything that,
Right, but what I would submit is, let's see what you submit to ZBA. Again, this is not ZBA, we're looking at planning issues, but in order to make that planning call, I need to see what the rationale was that the ZBA made, and what you presented in terms of what the interpretation was, or what they're saying that they accepted. That's what I need to know.
okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Got it. So then, in the letter, it asks that we discuss with you the status of the Department of Health review and approval, and also the DEC, review and approval. We have not submitted those to those departments yet. We wanted to get sort of your blessing on this layout, to make sure that we have a plan that works before we make those submissions. So, I guess once I get the zoning issues worked out, then, as long as, I guess your attorney and your engineer are okay, then we can move forward with making those submittals to the DOH and DEC. We will also be providing a new revised SWIP that takes into account all the changes that were made to the plan. And then Sean pointed out that there are restrictions on wall heights in the front and rear yard. So I think the only walls that are affected on the plan are the ones on the Cheechuk side, which would be in the front yard. So we're gonna have to adjust the heights of those walls to meet the code.
Can you terrace?
Yes.
What one of the other comments that Sean had put in his notes, as far as the wastewater treatment plant, that the original design had underground components, now you're showing just the footprint where the plant's going. Are we still designing it? I know you said it's being done by others, but it's still gonna be designed the same way as far as the odor and noise considerations that we looked at?
Yes, yes, they will be.
Mr. Chairman, can I just go back to the retaining wall issue?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's also a retaining wall towards the rear line. Looks like it has a top of wall of 450 and a bottom of wall of 451.
That's a side yard though, or the rear yard is on the western side of the site.
Okay. Yep, okay, thanks.
Okay, great.
Anything else, Sean? You ready?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think that's it.
Yeah, and I just wanna know, yeah, I'm just reading this decision, just so to give some context, so it says here, okay, so the variance is requestable for 2 50-foot building height area variances where 35 feet is allowed per code, and 1 55-foot building height area variance where 35 feet is allowed. And then where it says interpretation requested for parking in front of building and parking lot landscaping. And then you go on, and then it said that, okay, they accepted the interpretation of the proposed landscaping. Again, I don't know, we need to know what that interpretation, and then it also says that the area variance is not needed, but I don't know which area variances that we're talking about, because this references area variances.
Was that originally where they were looking for a 4-story building?
It doesn't say, all it
So we
states
don't
here
need a
that.
variance
So
over
I
the
have the
four-story?
application.
No, you definitely need.
No, no, no.
No, it's not an issue,
They
is that
were-
why it's put that in
They
area?
were referring to the parking in front of the building, and
Okay.
they were talking about the area variance.
Lena,
Yeah,
I have the ZBA application if you want to.
yeah, I'm not, I mean, send it to me and I'll look at it for the next meeting, but again, when I'm looking at the decision, it's saying that it's talking about area variances for the height. And then
But what I
there's,
do not see in here is any determination from Frank, and he would, if Frank had made a determination, it would be in here.
right, and then when it says though, an area variance is not needed as it relates to the front of building parking. So again, I just gotta get to the bottom of it and find out exactly.
I'll send you all of this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other comments from the board at this time?
No.
No.
Shane, it sounds like you know what you need to do.
Good deal. Thank you very much. Oh,
Do we know what we're gonna do?
Hey, I was gonna say, do
I
we?
know what I'm gonna do.
Do you wanna explain it? Cause I don't know what we're
Sure.
gonna do.
So I'm gonna provide.
You
all-
should speak to me, and what I would suggest, give you my card,
Yep.
give me a call. Once, Grace is gonna send me this information, send me what you have, you and I can talk, and then maybe we can, come to a point where this all makes sense.
Yeah,
So definitely reach out to me.
okay, so
In
we're.
terms of coming back to this board.
Yeah, so I guess if everything looks all right as far as Leno's concerned, I think what I would do is I will I'll change the wall, and is there anything else that you noted on? Oh, well, the extra
The island.
landscaping island. So I'll revise the plan one more time to meet what you've seen, or what, what you had asked for. If I can submit it back to you, and as long as you're okay with it, then I would say,
I'm not comfortable with that. right?
okay, so you
the
want us to come back
applicant-
to the.
The applicant is here
planning
for
board
site
on
plan
it.
approval, right? I don't approve site plans. I make recommendations to the board that does approve site plans.
Correct.
But they have a lot of work, I think, to do with the outside agencies, right? They have to get the water system approved, they have to get this wastewater treatment plan approved, and these may have impacts on the site plan. So I think the best course for the applicant, they've already concluded seeker in 2024, is to go to those outside agencies, at least get initial comments to make sure that they're on the right path before returning to you for action on the site plan.
Well, not to mention that, I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'm still pretty confused about what transpired with the planning, with the ZBA.
That's gonna be handled.
Yeah, Leno's
Yeah, I'm
gonna
gonna
take care
work,
of that.
I'm
On that
gonna
bench.
get to the bottom of that,
You may get to the bottom of it, but
but then I'll.
we may or may not.
Oh, you're saying they may need to go back.
The applicant
Yeah,
might not be in the
it's-
position that they think they're in.
Right, could
Yeah.
be.
That's my concern, cause it's, became blatantly obvious here tonight that I don't think they were ready to come to us tonight. Because, you know, we don't know what the ZBA did.
Well, we
We
got
can't
that much
take
from
it.
tonight, so it didn't, you know, definitely helped us get to that point, but now we just have to figure out how to go forward with the application. Here you go, Kelly.
Thank you. So we'll come back, I guess, once we,
I think
but
that-
you're saying
my
we should
comments
also
are
make the,
minor.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think landscape islands, I don't think are driving the application, but I think the wastewater treatment plant and the wells and, you know, the water treatment plant, I think those are driving the application at this point, so. My recommendation to the board.
Well, as far as the, like the water treatment plant, you know, the physical location of it doesn't matter from the health department standard. The ultimate design of what's inside,
Doesn't matter.
that's their permit.
Correct, yeah.
So, we already know the location, wells themselves you've done the testing on them.
They're not going anywhere.
So they're gonna be there, it's just a matter of getting the approvals on it. So what?
It's more the
what-
wastewater treatment plant.
I was saying, the wastewater treatment plant is gonna be, as far as the design,
But-
capacity, and the location.
But I think, I presume you wanna go in parallel paths, right? So you make a submission to the Department of Health, and then you make a submission to the DEC simultaneously, and then at least get the first round of comments from the Department of Health, just to make sure that there's nothing that would need an amended approval. And then, you know, it's more of a linear path that way than back and forth.
Do we know if the location is gonna change? That's.
The wells are not gonna change.
Yeah, okay,
They're
so,
fixed.
they're fixed, so, okay.
Yeah. All right,
We'll see you when we see you.
thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Night.
Next item on the agenda, which is not on the agenda. At least not on my copy. Maybe it was updated. Is, a request for advisory comments, site plan approval, exploration considerations.
It was updated, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. That's okay. I didn't wanna waste it. Okay, will this be you, Sean, or Lino?
It's probably most likely me, so.
Okay, in that case.
Again, just so you know, the town board is asking, so, you know, we've had a couple applications where this has become an issue with respect to, you know, the expirations of approvals, right? And again, we had an instance the last go round when I was here regarding an applicant that, you know, had approvals, did a lot of work, spent a substantial amount of money, and did substantial work in reliance of those approvals, in reliance of the building permit. So there was a question whether that application even needed to be here, because again, they had certain rights that were vested and what have you. This really deals with not that example, for folks that have gotten their approvals, and they are, you know, they just, for whatever reason, are not prosecuting them and getting the approvals and putting a shovel to the ground, getting permits, right? So listen, we understand that there are reasons for that. Your code was pretty punitive as to that point, some folks thought, right? So because you can get an approval here, and for whatever reason, whether it's supply chain issues, who knows, you had that, what is it, 2 year, it was like, how many, your extension was how many for the old current law, is what?
Up to 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, right? So sometimes you can get it accomplished in 2 years, sometimes you couldn't, but you didn't have the ability to go past that. So this tries to remediate that. My only 2 cents on this subject is I think it's a good idea, but at the same time, I don't think it should be open-ended. There should be, you know, you can't just have an infinite approval process. I gave you an example of my situation that I had, where it was 2018, we got our, it was lawsuits, again, that told certain limitations, but they're 2-year approvals, so you have to keep going before the board, send a letter, and state why you want to extend these approvals. Now, it's discretionary with the planning board as to that, but in that particular legislation, there is no expiration, so I can keep going back until they say, you know what, at this point, secret is stale, the neighborhood has changed, I mean, it's, if you, so there should be, to me, you should be allowed to extend it past the point that you currently have it, but it shouldn't be open-ended. So the question that you have before you is, what are the comments that you want to see? That way it can go back to the town board and the legislature. They're asking you for some comments as to that. Again, from my municipal side, I'd like to see some closure, but on the development side, I can also understand why 2 years is sometimes not enough, and they have to justify seeking an additional time.
I had a couple thoughts. I mean, limited extensions, I believe, should be allowed, first off. But I think any extensions, without putting a number of extensions on that at this point, is that when someone comes forward, you know, with an extension request, regulations change, codes change, that they would have to always comply with the most recent code requirements. I mean, if something changes, whether it be the water development or setbacks or building heights or whatever it might be, that they don't get to keep that by right, those
Okay.
approvals.
So let me give you a quick comment on that, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. So you're right, when it comes to zoning laws, so you get an approval, right? And let's say it's 2 years. So technically in those 2 years, if there's new zoning that comes, I'm talking about zoning, you're talking about maybe other environmental legislation. Let's just talk about zoning for a second. If it's just zoning, and you're within those 2 years, that application wouldn't,
It's exempt from it.
it's exempt from it.
Right.
The question is now, if you're gonna extend it another time period, and now let's say zoning comes out, that may change that application, do they still, I think if you're gonna extend the time beyond the 2 years, I think you're also gonna need to extend that they're still grandfathered with respect to new zoning in that window. But outside that window, if it's now goes beyond the time that we prescribed, then it's over, right?
Right.
Same, now, when it comes to environmental regulations, that's different, right? So, under state law, case law, if you have an environmental law that comes up, for example, I'll give you the vested rights example, we talked about that other application, right? Let's say they came in, they substantially completed the project, spent money, building permit. Okay, so any zoning laws that were enacted while that project was going on, they're exempt from because they're in the ground. But let's say a new water regulation came out for some reason, right? They would not be exempt, right? They would have to be subject to any type of environmental regulation that come out because they didn't finish it, right? So they may have to come back and deal with that. As to the zoning, they're grandfathered, but especially that case because they have vested rights. Any consideration of an extension that you're gonna give an applicant, I think from a zoning standpoint, should be grandfathered because then it just makes no sense to do that.
I mean, like with Department of Health, what we used to put on the plans was that if the plan wasn't filed within I think it was 90 days, and it had to come back for review, possible reapproval, it was then subject to any current regulations and any further review by outside agencies that might have been impacted on that plan. So I'm thinking in that regard, but then also, the other thing I was considering, if I could ask that, was that when they keep asking for extensions, we're getting some letters that are pretty weak in the request. Or they say, well, it's out to the health department, it's out to DEC, it's this or that. Getting a more detailed letter, or a letter from those agencies to support what they're claiming, the consultants. If they're saying that it's being held up in the DEC, get a letter from the DEC or the DOT saying it's under review, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, rather than just saying we sent it off to them and we haven't heard back yet, we're still waiting, because that can go on indefinitely.
Is this for approved projects? They got site plan approval?
Yeah.
Why would the DEC be?
Just like tonight, I mean, it's conceivable if this was a smaller project, that you may have conditionally approved this application, and then one of your conditions is to get the outside agency.
Agency's right. And some of these outside agencies, as I know, take quite a bit of time. You know,
Take a year to get a DEC permit.
I'm forgetting DOT I'm dealing with on a project, it's 2 years, right? And then to get an email to say that it's at DOT can take me probably 3 months to get that sometimes. So, if at all, right. I mean, I had a situation in another county not far from here where I'm doing a project and it's DOT is basically the driver of it, right? So we finally got something from DOT, but it took us about 5 months to get what the planning board was looking for. And it was just an email, literally 3 sentences that say what the status of the application was with DC. So I hear what you're saying, but I think you're right, it can't just be, well, it took, you know, we haven't gotten there yet, we're still working on stuff. I think you need a little bit more cause to support the fact that an extension is warranted.
So, right now,
Yeah.
let's say it's up, right, they can come and ask for an extension.
After 2 years, that's it. You have no discretion right now.
Filing an application.
Yeah, it's unique, because I've never seen that before. I mean, I've seen where you're allowed for cause, right? Because then after a certain amount of time too, you know, if you go 5, 6, 7 years, then you receive a determination that could be stale, right? You could have a project that was approved, but let's say while that project's been waiting for 4 years, 5 years to get built, maybe there's another project next to it, like a residential project that now the neighborhood's changed, right? So can that happen in that time frame? Sure it can. But it's up to the applicant to come and say, hey, planning board, I have this project that was approved. Your fair question is, okay, what's going on? Has anything changed? Any changed circumstances? What's the neighborhood look like now, right? And you could, if they could say nothing's changed, then SEQR's okay at that point, and you could determine whether or not you want to extend it further.
If they got an approval, and they, say for argument's sake, they had to cut trees, because of the Indiana bat, and they cut down the trees or something like that, does that give them, by right, I mean, like, we
Vested
give-
rights, no.
we give them one of the conditions that they have to act within a certain amount of time, that they don't, you know, the project is kind of dead. I don't know if it was 18 months or 2 years, it's one of the standard conditions. But if they put the shovel in the ground and start doing anything, does that give them any more rights for extension? It doesn't, okay.
Does not.
Okay.
So, I want to follow up on a point that you were making, and Sean may have a perspective on this too. With respect to number 2, about delays that are caused by outside agencies. You know, I guess the question is, who determines whether or not those delays are meaningful or meritorious? So, you know, we get letters, as you described, that are pretty bare bones. And, you know, that we'll hear a testimony like, yeah, we've been talking to the DOT, they're fine with it, stuff like that. If we're taking number 2 seriously, we kind of almost have to do like real work to determine whether or not the delay is a legitimate delay.
Well, that's what I was saying as far as getting documentation from that
Yes.
particular agency.
Yes.
I
So,
mean,
yeah.
you know, we used to get the Department of Health, I hate to keep saying that because I'm no longer there. It's nice, I'm retired. But, you know, where an applicant would call and say, what's going on with our review? We sent it, you know, so many months ago, 6 months ago, 5 months ago. It's like, we never received it. Go back to your engineer. If the engineer said you have it, you're sitting on it. Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid here.
I don't think you're saying that engineers are not always on.
I'm not talking about you. No, I'm not saying you.
I didn't say me, I mean engineers.
I'm glad the engineers get.
Yeah, I know, you're supposed to pick on the lawyers.
The lawyers always get the heat, right? Okay, I'm a catch and strap.
I know certain engineers that will always throw the health department under the bus. They're not gonna say that it's sitting on their desk, they haven't done it. Now, it might be they weren't paid, it could be any number of reasons, but they'll always say that the health department they're holding it up.
Yeah.
By getting a letter from that agency or from the DOT or something like that, it's clear. I mean, if there is a holdup in that agency, it's a legitimate holdup with a backlog, maybe, you know, then it gives credence to that.
But an agency, because let's say I work for certain agencies, why would I write that letter and admit that I'm the one holding it up? Because now I have my supervisor to answer to, and I'm writing a letter to another agency saying, it's my fault, it's been on my desk for 2 years, right? So you can, I think, practically speaking, I think it's up to the applicant to present a detailed explanation to your satisfaction as to why they're delayed,
Well,
right?
they may not have been holding it for 2 years. I mean, it's a condition of the approval. They may have waited till month 20.
They
to
could
first
have,
submit
right?
to the agency, in which case, the
God
agency
forbid,
could
right?
very well be
Yeah.
sitting on it for,
Yeah.
not sitting on it, working on it, considering it, or have a 6-month backlog, and they just haven't gotten to it. So all they're saying is, we have it in receipt, you know, we're working on whatever, we're currently working on 90 days, 120 days, whatever it is, but at least we know they did their due diligence, it's out of their control. You know, the applicants, not to penalize them as far as their approval, that's the only thing.
So
I'm
if it's
thinking.
out of their control, and goes past the 2 years, could we extend it?
No.
You can't now,
Not
you can't.
now.
Now, that's what they're trying to change.
So it gives no leeway.
You have no discretion. At 2
Right now,
years,
that's
it's
what-
over.
That's what we're looking to possibly
Right.
modify.
Well, here's my opinion. So we have this this issue, that there's no discretion after 2 years and they have to come back and reapply, okay? Is this a widespread issue? Like, how many applications has this honestly impacted?
I would say less than 5 in front of this board since I've been here,
Since you've been here, which is
almost 20 years.
20 years, yeah,
That's
exactly.
two. I've only been here since.
Yeah, well-
Dodge a little bit.
Well, it's- we need
It's-
more ability.
Yeah, you brought them with you, you know?
Right.
No,
That's
but
what
I
never
mean,
happened.
so,
Wow.
what do we do, 50 to 60 applications a year here? Probably more?
More.
And times that by 20 years,
Mhm.
you're looking at 1,000 applications?
Do we set ourselves up to, when we say that one delay is meritorious and deserves an extension and another delay
course.
is,
And-
like, isn't that kind of, it's very, like, if you're applying, what's the standard to say, this is a warranted delay, or are we just kind of capriciously saying, oh, you
Any
can have
decision-
delay and you can,
any
and then does
decision
that
you
open
make
us to
is
some
open to
liability in
legal
terms
scrutiny.
of not
Any
treating
discipline-
everybody the same way? You
I
know?
got something else that kind of builds on that. What's delay,
That's,
Correct,
you know?
right.
And Neil, when Neil was building inspector, he had a sign up in his office that said, what was it? Poor planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on our part, right?
Correct.
And it's the same type of thing.
My take on this whole thing is,
One at a time.
why mess with it?
Yeah.
Why mess with it?
Well, the
Just
town
leave
board
it.
is considering changing, it's their
They're
purview
asking
if
us.
they want to, and they're asking you for their opinion, which I think is a good practice, because you're the board.
It's a
that
great,
deals
it's a
with
great
this.
practice.
Could I jump in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was present at the town board when they discussed this, and I came away with the feeling that it was mostly about these third-party agencies that, if I could say, may not be doing their job or not doing it efficiently, and that's where the focus should be. I know this is very complex and has a lot of arms and whatnot, but I think, Gio, you hit it on the head. My first step would be to get data. Now, I understand, 20 years and 5 cases maybe, but, how many are due to third-party faults and how many are due to applicant faults? Because I'm sure you can have both. And is this really a serious problem? I think we should understand that before we make any kind of rules. I think also, just personal view, I'm uncomfortable opening this up and saying, whatever, 36 months. I mean,
That's the other point.
that kind of loses the whole.
You're better off, if 2 years is, like, if you wanna extend that period to maybe another year, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years, I think, listening to all of you, you're better off stating, okay, this is it, it's 4 years,
Right.
okay, and be done, right? And then give the applicant more time. The only reason why I can say there's other jurisdictions, right, that, and again, dealing with other agencies just because I've been there, right? So sometimes through no fault of my own or my clients, I am beholden to an agency, I'm beholden to other factors that, again, to Sean's point, sometimes, right, it's our fault, but I could give you a bunch of times where I've done this, where it's not the applicant's fault. There are issues with whether it's DOT, whether, I'm not gonna single out any agency, whether it's, DEC, whether it's a federal agency, right? So sometimes we do get caught up in that, and especially when you're dealing, like, in other areas that have much higher volume than you all sometimes, you get caught up and it takes time, right? So like I said, in my instance, 2018, the project was approved, I kept getting extensions because, and ultimately the board, it's up now this May, they could say, you know what, we're done, right? And at that point, I'm done. I have no vested rights. My clients didn't put a shovel to the ground. They've just been dealing with it. Metrics have changed. I mean, neighborhoods changed in the sense that, so that I get, but I think if you're gonna do this and consider it, you're better off saying, okay, if it's not 2 years, we'll make it X year or this. That way it's concrete. To your point, it doesn't get into, well, what excuse is valid and what's not, right? So that goes to my point earlier about you have a bookend, right? So it's from when you get approval, if it's more than 2 years, they could ask for another 2-year clip, okay? And that's maybe 4 years and done. Again, I'm just speaking out loud, but that's what I would recommend.
Another one, thinking of also, like wetland delineations. They get done during the process of developing property, and it's got a finite amount of time that it's valid. And they have to go back for another JD on it, which could fall after that 2-year period, at the end of that cycle, or towards the end of it. And then you're again back at the mercy of the Army Corps coming out or whoever, to do it, another, determination to verify that the results still stand, and nothing's changed. Just as another.
If I could just one thing, I'm sorry. So, you have an applicant, a very sophisticated applicant in another community, and they actually took an approach I haven't seen. And what they did was, they went all through site plan approval, and the board scheduled them for a resolution, and they actually specifically asked not to be.
Not right.
And they said, we have some outside agency approvals, actually, one of them was your former employer, and they said, we would like to come back in 6 months, and that's what they did.
I was gonna mention that, because I've been fortunate enough to be on both sides.
Right.
I'm building a building now, but I got my DEC permit, took a year to get.
Yeah.
While the process was going, right? So if I was a board, I wouldn't want my conditional approval, right? Unless I got that done, because I know it takes a long time now. So if I do another project, right? I wouldn't want a conditional approval, just like you just said.
That's what we just discussed with hospitality tonight.
But the flip side of that coin, applicants who need, who have like investors with financing, they want that resolution because that gives them, and it's final, non-appealable, right? So they want the resolution because that opens up now to investors either to sell, to gain financing for the project.
Of course.
So if you have the financial wherewithal to have that strategy, great. A lot of clients don't, so.
But I would tell those investors, hey, you may have to go back for approval because the 2 years is gonna be up, because we're not gonna get it fast enough from the DEC or the Department of Health. I don't know.
So, right now, if we grant an extension, among the things that we can consider are whether or not they're trying to work through third-party approval, or agency approvals. So, that's already part of our calculus, whether or not the agencies are acting quickly. My concern is putting in something specific to the outside agencies, which somehow feels like it is an imposition on us. If we're already considering that,
Right.
and if we wanna make this time frame longer, for whatever reason, like, why would we have to add this outside agency language if it's something that we already consider when we're granting?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it's a fair point. I would just think, again, to make it clear, either you factor in, you make a code that says, okay, well, anything past 2 years, the applicant has to show, good cause, and then you have to define good cause, and then that gets into what you're saying, defining what that means, outside agencies, or whatever the case may be. So you may wanna, to avoid that, if what I'm hearing is, okay, maybe for certain applicants, 2 years is not sufficient time, then you just maybe carry a little further, and then.
What I'm thinking is, I wouldn't want Sean to say to us as a board, hey, you should do a conditional approval based on DEC permits. I would say, don't do that, because it could take a year and a half to get a DEC permit. So.
Right, but if you extend it to 3 years or 4 years, it kind of, now you factored into that process.
No, I'm saying make it, in order for you to get a conditional approval, you gotta have a DEC permit first.
That's.
So it's applicant specific in a lot of cases.
Some applicants can't do that.
Yeah, the applicant I was referring to, like I said, was very
Right.
sophisticated, was very well financed, and could afford to do that.
Yeah, I represent, for example, a large institutional residential developer builder, right, that's known throughout this country. So they have the wherewithal probably to do that if they wanted to, right? But, local developer who wants to do, a modest mixed-use development may not have that luxury. So, and that's, again, so it goes back to, from my experience, I think 2 years is probably not enough, and you want the ability to give the applicant that, because again, sometimes you could spend 2, 3, I spent 5 years before board, 6 years on a project, right? And it's between zone changes and that, and it's time, it's money, and it's, you're doing your job, all for, okay, now if I know 2 years, I'm gonna be getting this approval expired, and I have to go through this all again, to me, it's kind of harsh from an applicant standpoint. I get it. So, to you as well. You put all this work to get a project in here, right? To do whatever type of use into the town, and you're going to have the ability to just say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, your shot clock's up. So we spent X number of years or time looking at it, and now you're done. Sorry. I mean, to me, again, wearing both hats, that's a harsh reality, right? So, if you were to maybe give that applicant a little bit more, saying, hey, we'll work with you, but you only have this much more time. We'll give you 1 more year or 6 more months, whatever the case may be, and it's done at that point. then at least we give them that opportunity. But right now, your legislation says it's 2 years, you're done. Game over, end of the third period, no overtime, you're done.
In my time here, the only one that's come back because the 2-year shot clock expired, it wasn't because the third party delayed them.
Nope.
It's because they abandoned the project.
Yep.
And then they wanted to make it more marketable, so they,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know,
Well,
reinvigorated
They
it.
should get a free ride.
So,
on it.
other than that, there haven't been any that had expired, you know, I don't remember
and that's
how long
why-
I've been here,
Mid-
but.
no,
It ain't broke.
That's why I made the point that my opinion is to leave it alone, because it's not a serious problem.
Was that half of 1%?
Probably something like that.
Yeah. Doesn't ever get anybody to bet on that.
Keep in mind, if zoning changes, right, and you make it too long, you make it 4 years, then the zoning changes are better for the community, right? That's usually what you do with the zoning change, right? But now you wait 4 years, we're lessening those opportunities for the community, right? It's a double-edged sword, I guess.
Not to mention, we're also going through modifications to the comprehensive plan right now, too.
That's another topic, I could have you here for hours on.
It's not just you, I mean, you've had applications where people have come back, developers, and they no longer meet the stormwater sizing requirements, right? So now they have these ponds that are incredibly deep because they only had allocated such an area, you know? So sometimes these things turn into Frankensteins when they've been out there for a long time to try to comply with new regulations.
There's only one application that comes to mind that this really affects, and that decision was made by the applicant to treat their property the way they treated it. You know, they were pushing hot and heavy for half of the development, and they sat on their laurels on the other half. Had nothing to do with third-party approvals, had nothing to do with any of that, and nothing to do with anything outside of their control. I think it was a conscious decision, and,
But that, again, that, we're talking about Amy's, is that what, the application, the key thing there that's different from a legal standpoint is that they had vested rights, and that's, what that means, they had a building permit,
sure.
they spent a substantial amount of money, and improvements. So those three things together, that exempts them. So they shouldn't have even been here, as far as I'm concerned. They were here because of the statute and because of this 2-year time plan, because if you have vested rights, then it doesn't matter, it didn't expire, they still have the approvals.
Right.
They already put the money, they put the permit, they pulled the permit,
Right.
put the money in,
Right.
and built, right? And they put more than just footings, they had a building up.
Mhm.
So, in that case, yes, they've had, now, there were other aspects of that development that they wanted to further. Okay, that's their prerogative, but they had the vested rights. A lot of these times, like even in my situation in other jurisdictions, I don't have those rights. I'm just trying to get extended because trying to get financing, or they're trying to sell the project, whatever the case may be. And you're right, that's more applicant driven, and to your point, that's on us, right? So, as a developer. But in that instance, I don't know why they were here, right? And you know, the attorney, anyway, I know the applicant did it because, and he had to say, he said to me, before coming here, because I didn't know why I'm there, because I'm here because I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'm like, you're much nicer than me, because I would have written a letter to you all and says, you know what? Cite all the law as to why I don't need to be here, right? But he decided to take a better route and appreciate it for it, but that's a very different case than what this is geared toward, because this legislation doesn't apply to that situation. He wouldn't be subject to this. So.
So what are you passing on to the town board?
Whatever the board says. Whatever you want.
There's a lot of different
How
folks
do
with
memorial,
different-
how do we memorialize this and document our?
Like you would any other report.
Yeah.
Leo will prepare a letter for you.
I'll do a letter. Just if you wanna even like send, each one of you can email me your thoughts and I can put it together. Yeah, just send me an email and I'll put it together in a letter form or a bullet point as attorney-client back to the town board. So, but if you could just, you all have an email, so send me your thoughts and I'll put it in the package.
Any other thoughts on this?
I give you my 2 cents.
Sounded like 3 cents.
I get paid by the hour.
3 cents?
Wow.
It's time for a raise.
I like this shirt.
Okay, Sean.
All right, so, you have a number of applications. You have Games Garden, which we talked about tonight. They want to talk about an amended plan. Right? You have 349 Maple is coming back. Haley Truck is coming back. 6 and 8 Gumware is coming back. I just want to mention something on those 3 applications before I get into the other ones. In those cases, those applicants are concluding with the ZBA. So I think it's appropriate to have them on your meeting on the 19th, but I would not have them back beyond that without getting first the written decision from the ZBA. It is, as you saw tonight, it's difficult when an applicant comes in here and tries to summarize what they got from the ZBA.
Yeah, that's.
So,
I should have allowed it.
yeah,
I'm gonna try.
Grace is
I'm gonna do my best.
working on it. And then there's 2 others. Jessup Switch Warehouse is coming back, and this is the one that's gonna be tough. Light Star Solar, do you remember that one out of 94? They've sold the project. The new buyer wants to come in for a clearing permit so they can clear trees before the end of the month.
That's the one towards Florida?
That's the one, yes.
Across from Derlin Road, right?
Derlin Road?
Yeah. Okay, so, in this case, just interestingly, the new applicant bought the property and thought that they bought approval, not a conditional approval. And they thought they were just getting a building permit and were very surprised when they learned they weren't.
We have no public hearings.
No.
Javier went to it.
Anything else the board wishes to raise? Any concerns?
Just out of my own curiosity, where does that appeal with Ontoraga sit?
That was on this past meeting, but it was canceled due to the weather. So I presume that was.
April 7th.
April 7th.
Yeah, and that thing too, like, there are a lot of places that you don't even get before the planning board unless the ZBA, issues a decision, they won't let me go on. So it's probably a good idea just to have a decision, so you all, like tonight, what happened.
I thought that's the way we operated. I mean, I didn't realize that we couldn't.
We
The
tried
applicant's
to,
words
like,
for it.
like Lino had indicated earlier, sometimes applicants, they are at the 1 yard line of the ZBA, and they just wanna get back to you because they want to make, like, they wanna cut trees down, or they wanna catch this construction season, right? They don't wanna lose any momentum. So, we try to get those people before you, but we just don't wanna let it get out of hand where you're proceeding and we still don't have that decision.
Right.
Any other comments, concerns? Not, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Yes, you can.
Gio, second by.
I'll second
Seamus, all in favor, say aye.
that. Aye.
Against?